And we're live back again on the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have Kevin Moran and Matt Lombardi from Beam CBD. Thanks for coming on, guys. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Truly.
Thanks for having us.
So, let's just dive right in. We've been taking a look at some of your supplements. Thank you guys for sending us some. We really appreciate it. They're great. We're big advocates of CBD and recovery in general, right? Especially de-stressing the body, something we both advocate a lot to our clientele. So before, we get into all the juicy stuff about how you guys started the brand and everything, why don't you just give us a little lowdown on Beam and what you guys have been up to lately?
Trying to kick it off, Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, let it rip.
Sure. So Kevin and I both grew up in the Boston area. We both went to Boston College. I played hockey at BC. Kevin played baseball. And then from there, we were fortunate to play professionally for a number of years after. And then unfortunately, we both stopped a little bit earlier than we had planned due to different injuries. I would say it's probably the cliff notes of that. And then serendipitously, Kevin had just moved back to Boston, and we've had a great group of our teammates from school that have remained in Boston. And so Kevin just moved back. We ended up overlapping an apartment building for a few months, and we were friends at school, but we usually say we're more acquaintances. And the time Kevin was training for an Ironman with his now wife, and I started jumping in, doing the work, trying to do the workouts with him. And we just became best friends pretty instantaneously. And I think the biggest thing was just like our shared passion for wellness and health and working out and just trying new things. Now that we weren't athletes anymore, how do we stay happy, healthy, whole? And whether it be long distance running, endurance races, CrossFit, trying different supplements and, the new things that are out there. We just had a shared passion. And it was funny, about 3 years ago, we were training for the Boston Marathon together, and Kevin sent a blog over. We started reading about CBD, I think like most consumers. So this is back when obviously we didn't really know anything about the space. We were just, what is this stuff? Does it get you high? Is it weed? How does it help with 1,000 different things? We really had no idea what it was. We were super skeptical of it. And the long story short, ended up trying a few different products, different brands, different form factors, realized, in our own lives, some really profound benefits from it. Took a step back, saw this huge opportunity, given that there's this emerging market happening in this cannabis space with CBD and THC products in particular. Saw this huge gap in the market of nothing really meeting the needs for active people living an active lifestyle or athletes at the time, just given, people are getting drug tests and things like that. And it was a very widely misunderstood supplement. And the net of that was we just saw a huge opportunity to build a beautiful brand, what has fortunately become Beam, and to really create products and do something unique in this athletic space. I'll let Kevin if there's any gaps to fill in that.
You covered it. I guess maybe one thing I'd hit on is we saw early on, I was working for a big tech company at the time, but we saw early on that it was a really unique opportunity to bring something with profit and purpose both to the market. No offense to, a protein bar or any other supplement, but, the brand, we started getting messages of people getting off SSRIs for depression and anxiety and narcotics for chronic pains. We're sleeping better and having these super profound benefits. And then on the flip side of it, we also saw that this is a very big emerging market. So it quickly became kind of something that was a once in a lifetime opportunity for us. And we just kind of jumped at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an emerging market for sure, man. I think with all of the awareness coming towards, the negative impact of big pharma and the actual benefit of, plant pharmaceuticals like CBD. I think you guys are right on the money with, the actual, substance that CBD is, as well as, the benefits of it and how it can help people get off things that are like SSRIs, which are, really detrimental to someone's overall health in the long run.
Yeah, it's also like any emerging market too, where it takes time to move and be regulated. Where we have, I think, some of our success early on is, given to Matt's point, our athletic background and some of the partners we have in the brand, is we've done things the right way with testing and our internal procedures and protocols. We self-regulate ourselves pretty rigorously, but over time there'll be a process that'll be put in place, and a lot of our thesis is that this is just going to be, it's still totally misunderstood from a public perspective, but over time, this is going to be a collagen protein or a fish oil or a lifestyle supplement that people take because they know that it's good for them. It's not going to have that stigma of the cannabis category like it has now. And that's a lot of our mission over the next few years, is to humanize it and bring it to a mass market.
So going into your product, knowing that you guys had said you had tested out and tried many other products before, of course, just to know what CBD was and its effects and what it can do for you. Going through those different products, which were the ones that stood out to you? And then from there, how were you able to then say, we need to be able to create something that can fill in the gaps for this? And how was that process creating Beam?
So it's hard to pinpoint, because you tried multiple. So there's a lot of things you look at, just the form factor and how you're consuming it, meaning if it's a tincture, if it's a capsule, there's patches, there were vapes. Again, I'm going back to 3 years ago when we were looking at the space. I would say the net of that is what we realized is, why is one capsule giving me benefits or things, I'm realizing benefits from, and another capsule I'm not, when they say the same dosage or they say pretty much the same ingredients. Why does one feel like it's helping and one's not? And so that at the high level, just say not all CBD is equal. And I think that's been one of the most interesting things as we've delved into this, just understanding from, how the plant is grown, how it's extracted, pretty much everything from that plant to the end product the consumer gets. And that's where we found there's so many variants that are in there, and so many different things can happen. So that's part of what Kevin was just chatting about how we essentially self-regulate ourselves. We're testing the products all throughout their journey. So again, when it's most potent extraction from the plant, when it starts getting manufactured, and when it ends up being in the bottle that a consumer gets, because throughout that process, there's different times when potencies and different things can those products, metals, leads, molds, yeast, things like that. So then what the consumer gets. So it wasn't so much, looking at one company versus another company and saying this company is doing it right. It's really like you have to look under the sheets and really understand, like, what's that journey look like from plant to the finished product, and what do we think makes sense in terms of keeping a really high quality product throughout that. And it's not easy. It's incredibly complicated. Today, as we've created a really unique line of innovative and functional purpose-driven products, meaning we've taken our CBD, we're also pairing it with other really cool benefits or other cool ingredients to promote sleep, for example, or recovery. We have a very complex manufacturing process. But at the same time, it's great because it's really hard to do this and do it the right way and keep the purity and quality of the products. So when we're proud of it, it's complex, but there's a lot that goes into making that final product.
Yeah. Agreed. And just to bring it up a level too, just as from an analogy perspective, like it's very, a grass-fed beef burger is very different than the burger you're going to get at McDonald's. So
very, very different.
It's analogous in a way. I mean, there's the devil is in the details, right? Which Matt was getting into, but when you bring it like super high level, like it's no different than a lot of other industries.
You guys have your own manufacturing plant that you guys are manufacturing it out of, or do you outsource that?
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, we don't own our manufacturing. I outsource it, but we've created really unique relationships. I think that was one of the things when we started getting interested in the space was, we weren't coming from, a consumer packaged good background or a manufacturing background or a cannabis background. We just became obsessed with this idea of Beam and CBD and creating wellness with people. So we just scoured the country essentially, vetting different people, going to visit different manufacturing places. So I'd say we've been pretty diligent on who the partners are and how they execute on the products.
So for the people that, maybe are not as familiar with CBD, I know some of my clients ask me all the time, like, oh, can you get high from this? I'm like, no, and I smoke a lot of weed. So they're always like, oh, you're trying to get me super high and make me freak out. I'm like, no, you're not going to freak out over this. I promise. Like, I wouldn't do that to you. I still need to make money from you. So don't worry. But, so for the people that, maybe aren't as familiar as we are with CBD or you guys, what is CBD and, what really are the physiological benefits that someone might experience while taking CBD?
I can start, Matt, and you can dive into it. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start because the story gets very long and complicated. But
yeah. I mean, listen, we got some time, so you're more than welcome.
This is our CBD 101.
Yeah.
So cannabis, right? No one can see my hands because it's just on audio, but you have to think of that like kind of like the top of the pyramid. Underneath that, you have hemp and marijuana. They're both part of the plant family of cannabis. Obviously, marijuana is grown with very high levels of THC, very low levels of CBD. THC and CBD are both cannabinoids. Hemp is part of the cannabis family, but grown with very, very low levels of THC, very high levels of CBD. Hemp is also used, as you guys know, for
Used to be used for paper.
Paper. I was going to say bricks, protein powder, all sorts of different things. We extract all of our CBD from hemp. And I guess to rewind back to the beginning where I was kind of going with this is in 2018, the Farm Bill passed, which took hemp out of the cannabis category. So before that, in this country, when we started this business, which was a very unique time to be starting a CBD business, CBD was a federally controlled substance underneath that Farm Bill. There was no delineation between hemp and marijuana and all these different types of cannabis. So
I've gone down that rabbit hole before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a long Twitter scroll.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just gotten such a bad rap from society for that reason. Now, ultimately, once and us as athletes, to bring it back to the brand, started looking at that and understanding it ourselves, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a massive opportunity here. This supplement is helping us solve like these major issues in our lives, and athletes should be taking it. And that was our backgrounds as well. So we just started talking to them, and that's initially how the brand started. So our CBD is extracted from the leaves and flowers of the hemp plant. There is CBD out there that has very, very trace amounts of THC. And given our athletic backgrounds and what I was just telling you, it was always core to the brand that we had no THC at all in any of the products. So we go through a special process to remove even the trace amounts of THC in the product. And we've kind of built our brand on that, with all the athletes that we work with. A lot of our thesis is we think that parents don't want a bottle of CBD lying around on the counter, even if it has trace amounts of THC. It's been unique for us. We initially thought it was more of an athletic market that we were trying to serve, but now it's first responders, pilots, doctors, all sorts of people on top of athletes. So that's been our thesis on that. And now I'm jumping around a little bit, but from a benefits perspective, I guess, Matt, why don't I let you, I'll take a breath and you can get into the endocannabinoid system a bit and talk about how it helps with that.
So again, it kind of starts understanding there's the cannabis family plants, there's hemp, there's marijuana, there's all of these cannabinoids inside both of those plants. THC is really prevalent, obviously. Marijuana, very low amounts of THC, very high amounts of CBD and hemp. CBD has no psychoactive effect to it, to your point earlier, does it get you high, things like that. So, but what's really interesting is that, and this is relatively new science, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, where scientists discovered that we have in our body what's called an endocannabinoid system. And essentially think of this as like a neural pathway all throughout our body. It's our mind sending all these neurotransmitters and signals and communications to different parts of our body to help regulate things like sleep, inflammation, digestion, stress, anxiety, all these different things. Think of those think of those like a bunch of highways running throughout your body, because if we work out too much, we're stressed, our diets are off, life is happening to us. Think of potholes and cracks and damages happening to those highways. So now as your brain's communicating to your body, it's not optimally getting there. The communication's a little bit broken down because it's hitting potholes and cracks and it's running off the road, etc. CBD acts in a way, there's almost like little engineers to go in there and fill all those potholes, those cracks. And so it helps your body essentially just operate the way that it should be. So what's really interesting with it is that it's not so much that it's helping with sleep because it's making you drowsy and it knocks you out. It's more our body goes through a process to get into its REM cycle and deep sleep that it's enabling our body to do that more efficiently. Same thing when we're feeling stressed, we have anxiety, there's chemical reactions going on in our brain and our body's trying to regulate those different chemicals. It's not doing that properly. CBD is helping your body, again, just regulate that through all these neural pathways and transmitters and things like that. So essentially what it's doing, our endocannabinoid system, its main job is just to keep our body operating or keep it in balance, or another word for that would just be saying maintaining homeostasis, so everything's in balance. So CBD is really just aiding in our body's endocannabinoid system ability just to maintain balance. And again, that's why it's so interesting, because it then is impacting so many different functions in our body, and why it becomes kind of like, what is it, snake oil? How can it help with 15 different things at once? So another analogy we often use too is just to think of CBD oil as engine oil. With body, your body is your engine. It just helps it run more efficiently.
Yeah, I like the fill in the cracks analogy. That's great. I might have to steal that from you guys if you don't mind.
Perfect.
So knowing that you guys worked with athletes, I know you said at the beginning, more dominantly, and then shifting over and realizing that there was a huge market out there for, the average day individual, mom and dad, and even younger athletes. How did that approach for your business change? Did you guys change any of the products? Did you guys change any of the marketing, the way that you would deliver the message? How did that look at the beginning? And if it did change, how did it change?
I'll just say something that's like more macro, and then Kevin jump in. But I think at the highest level, we had this very core belief that if we built and designed both the brand and the products to meet the needs of the 1%, and so these athletes, the elite athletes, these professional athletes, and then we designed the brand the right way, the masses would be interested in that, because often people obviously look to their favorite athletes or people they look up to for guidance or input on what, if they take it, it must be good. I think one of the challenges with that sometimes in the supplement category is not getting the brand side of it right. There's a lot of, I think people get products right that meet the needs of athletes, but then the brand, the messaging doesn't resonate with the masses. It just really is for like those very intense people. So I think at the highest level, if we get the brand and the packaging and the look and feel right, we create the actual products so they're of high quality and efficacy that meet the needs of elite athletes and achievers, the masses will come with that too.
Mm-hmm. No, well said. I think that was always the plan when it was just the two of us. Obviously the team's a lot bigger now, but it was how can we create these products that meet the needs of the 1%. The masses will follow.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys brought up, a brief moment ago about, firefighters and doctors and nurses and people who have these high stress jobs, really,
especially now.
Yeah, really considering at least, giving CBD a try, because recovery, everyone's heard like all these athletes LeBron needs to spend time to recover, Kevin Durant, all these football players, like they're doing all this stuff for recovery, but it's really starting to shift into the mainstream now. I mean, we have our backgrounds in health and fitness, and getting some of our clients to understand that, you got to do a prolonged cool down even is like blowing their minds. Like, what do you mean I got to spend 15 minutes to cool down at the end of my workout? It's like, well, it's actually really important because it helps with the recovery process. And, CBD is just another tool that people can add to their toolbox in order to properly recover so that they can continue to live the life that they want to live without, all this added stress, especially nowadays. There's so much added stress from, television and news networks and, friends talking about politics and everything. I think more than ever, we need to be promoting the message of de-stressing your mind and de-stressing your body, and CBD. And it sounds like with what you guys got going on, you're dead on the money with how you're approaching that, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. And, I think sometimes, we look at the situation with COVID too, and to your point, like we're very, very lucky where the business, we're not in retail. The business was optimized for direct to consumer. We have products that help people with stress, anxiety, sleep going through this time. So it feels just very lucky in a very troubling time for a lot of people that we have the business that we do. And I think going back to what I said in the beginning around product, around profit and purpose, if you do anything with purpose and there's a reason behind it, which a lot of our reason is to help people for the reasons you just said, more often than not, things work out for you, I would say. And that was always the logic behind the business. I don't think we were expecting a pandemic to come, but
yeah, I don't think anyone could have saw that.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things with I don't know if it's interesting, but one of the things with COVID coming around too is that, just what you were describing, that it made me think of it as just, pre-COVID, I think it was a very aspirational thing to want to be healthier, be more fit, have more of a routine, work out, eat better, etc. I think it's hammered home this realization. It's not really just like this aspirational thing anymore. Like, you have to be healthy. Your health has to be priority. And so I think, I see it with my mom, I see it with my sisters, just like, whether it be doing more yoga, being more conscious of, eating, drinking more water, doing things the right way. It's really created more of this. It's not just like a trendy thing. It's like, it's a more mandatory, like you really need to be dialed in with your health and wellness routines. That's one interesting trend we've seen happening the last few months for sure. It sounds like obviously you guys have too.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I agree 100%. You know, and it's just me and Josh talking about it all the time. It's more of people having that awareness that it's you have to stay healthy during these times and keep yourself, you know, in the most optimal position for you to be able to surpass all this crap that's going on, and just make sure that you can protect your body and fight off anything that tries to enter it. Just curious, just because we're in this whole COVID topic and talking about people and health, have you guys gotten any messages or any kind of notice of anybody who's used your product while having COVID, and them telling you, hey, I'm getting benefits out of this, it's helping me feel better, or it's helping me to surpass during the time of me having this virus, where it just made it easier for me to recover? Have you guys gotten that yet?
I don't think so, Matt. I don't know if you're shaking your head. Yes. Have you heard from anyone that had it?
Yeah, so there's been a few. We call this citizens data. So one, these aren't claims, these aren't anything like that saying Beam helps with COVID.
Of
Just
course,
to be clear,
of course.
Yeah.
it's just a space where you have to be super. This is where we see brands make a lot of mistakes. We try to be really clear and transparent about, talking about any kind of benefits people should expect with their products. I don't think there's been specific things. I just, it's more just like people have shared, like they were feeling COVID symptoms. There's been a couple anecdotal things where people said they were experiencing COVID-like symptoms and increased or started using Beam and felt better because of that. But I wouldn't necessarily I would just say it was an anecdote that we got. I wouldn't link the two to say, if you have
I think
Beam.
what we were talking about before on the front end of that, like I think we're helping people. We have seen a lot of people lean into our sleep products, which I think, isn't necessarily, but I think I'm not going to make a claim either, but I think we've hopefully prevented some people, given what we've helped them do for their immune system, sleeping better and,
Well, if you can help them sleep through their recovery process the whole time, well, that's a pretty big win.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there any research? I mean, I haven't really dove deep into it. I'm kind of a nerd deep down, so I'm always digging through, exercise science research studies and everything. Is there anything on CBD, and or have they started doing any research on CBD and the effect it might have on COVID symptoms or anything?
It's a great question. There's not a lot of research out in CBD in general, and to Matt's point, we kind of coined the term citizen science, and we had a lot of people very early on say, oh, this is to Matt's point, this is snake oil, this is a placebo effect, blah, blah, blah. And then it got to the point where, like I was saying earlier, we had all these people coming into our DMs, into the support box, like of solving these really, really massively profound issues. I mean, we didn't even get into it for me. I used to be a chronic migraine sufferer, and I used to get them once or twice a month. I've had probably 2 in the last 3 years. So there's some serious benefit and the only thing I've changed in my life is that I use our products. So my point is you can't placebo all of these things out of people. So no, there's not a ton of clinical data around this. There probably will be soon. I just to be candid, I would say anyone that's super over rotated in either direction is probably has an agenda, I would say.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's been a couple CBD COVID articles that we've read, none of which I would really claim.
Yeah, agreed.
I would, we're not posting them to our social and saying, hey, everybody, read this. It's yeah.
Josh wants his hands on those.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm a big nerd deep down for sure. The tattoos I know you can't see them, but they're there. They're masking my nerd deep inside me.
Nerdness.
I know from my personal experience, like I don't experience panic attacks or anything, but I do tend to get these influxes of like, massive waves of anxiety, and then I'm like, okay, well, let me go grab some CBD, and, in a short matter of time, boom, it's gone. I'm able to then get back to my day and really be able to focus on the things I need to do, which didn't used to happen before I was taking CBD. I used to start worrying about all the different things I had to do in the day and then never get any of it done, actually, so it was very counterproductive. I used to let the anxiety, or the anxiety would really take over my emotional state for the day. And since I've been able to take CBD, that's completely gone away.
It's funny you say that. We were, so Billy Horschel, he's on the PGA Tour. He invested in Beam in our last round of funding about a year ago. And Matt and I were actually chatting with him for a while yesterday, and he was telling us not sure if you guys saw, but last weekend he played in the Wyndham Classic. He unfortunately came in second. He almost won it at the last second. But
damn.
Wow.
yeah, I was asking. He had a big shot in 18, and I said, how do you feel when you're over the ball? Like, there's all this pressure to win the tournament, all this money on the line, all of these things. And he's like, it's crazy. I usually, in those times, he says he looks at his whoop and he's like, my heart rate is really steady and it's not elevated like in these times of high stress. And he's like, in the beginning of the tournament is oftentimes when I feel like really anxious, like when I haven't gotten it going yet. And it's just kind of like there isn't a lot on the line, which is obviously a gift. I think people would much prefer that as opposed to freak out when it's all on the line. But where I'm going with this is he's like, I've been taking the last few tournaments, the one, which is our oil, in pre-round at the range, like right before he hits the course and sometimes out on the course. He's just like, all of a sudden, like my anxiety's it's been so much better, which is really cool. I think that was rewarding for Matt and I, like being athletes as well. Then to hear somebody like this is having a big impact on his game was really cool.
That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. No, and that's the thing, like when you hear stories like those, from, athletes to, regular individuals with their performance, it really makes you think about, the actual CBD product itself. And it makes you wonder, like, well, imagine if I took this on a consistent basis and I added this to my daily routine, how it can really help me. And I have a question for you guys, just to know more in detail about this specific question that I want to ask you guys. Would you say that the quality of, obviously the quality of the CBD matters, but would you also say that depending on the person's chemistry, body chemistry, it can also alter the way somebody will have the effects, just because somebody's chemistry might be somebody different than somebody else's, even if the quality of the CBD is good, they might not get certain effects or benefits from it? Or is it only just because of the quality of the CBD?
I can take part of that, Matt, and maybe I guess I can start. So yeah, I think everybody is different. We encourage people not to get super deep into our products, but we have different doses of the oil, different
Get as deep as you want, man. Get as deep as you want, please.
You got to make him a special CBD.
Yeah.
Just different doses for everybody. The reason why you would have different doses is because every CBD affects everybody differently. So, first time people that have never used it, we encourage them to kind of start low and grow. We keep talking in analogies, and I'm yet to find one better than caffeine, but think of like a cup of coffee for each one of us here. Like I freak out if I have like more than one cup of coffee with caffeine. Other people can have it right before they go to bed at night. So there's different effects on people. And again, like I said, we encourage people to start low and grow. And then we find that people move up from there depending on how they are. And of course too, like, there's the physiological factors with each one of us as well, body fat and all sorts of things that would stop something from absorbing and getting in your system. So, of course, like anything else, you would want to have the highest quality product, and you'd expect that would absorb the most. We can get a little bit into nano CBD. I don't know, Matt, if that's what you're thinking too, but that gets really nerdy fast. But I'll let you go there if you want.
So I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry, I don't just so I don't forget. I know you mentioned about the dosage. Let's say somebody's been taking it for a while at a higher dosage for a prolonged period of time. Knowing that our bodies adapt, would that dosage have to keep increasing? How would that work? Would it get to the point where maybe that person might not feel benefits anymore, or they might not feel the same reactions anymore that they were getting before? How would you go about that?
Yeah, so it's not like caffeine where you start to build up a tolerance and you just needed to be taking more. It kind of goes back again. Like there's some things like our dream product, because it's our CBD, it has other things that also do make you drowsy and promote sleep. Sleep is one pain point where you do, because it's just more like you wake up and you know whether you slept better or you didn't sleep better. It's kind of black and white. Same thing with stress and anxiety. To your point, just mentioned that's something that's a little bit more of like an immediate reaction and chemical reaction going on in your body at the time. So you can quickly understand if it's having an impact or not. But overall, again, and it kind of backtracks to the endocannabinoid system. The net of everything is just, it's helping our body run more efficiently. And so the important thing with CBD is not to put it in association with THC or something like that, where you're just expecting this immediate reaction or something that you should be actually feeling. it is something that is important to have just consistently over time. Because again, your body's just constantly cranking and running. Again, just thinking about like, do you just pave the potholes like for a day, they go back and, you're not running optimally again. So the idea is that you're consistently integrating CBD into your system because of that benefit it has in your overall endocannabinoid system. And then there's just other things too that can impact the severity of what it is. Are you a horrendous sleeper, or is it, you wake up sometimes and you kind of toss and turn a little bit? Maybe you take 2 scoops of Dream versus 1. Maybe you get the most potent tincture that we have.
So
it also depends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just,
Well, with my little one who keeps waking me up at night 3-4 times, I'm gonna need some of that stuff.
Yeah, you're a good candidate for Dream, it sounds like.
Is there? Sorry, were you finished or?
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the gist of it.
All right, I just didn't want to cut you off. Is there a timing aspect to some of the different products you have? Like you mentioned Dream and you mentioned your tincture. Like, is there a optimal time for people to take them before they fall asleep so that it can be effective? Or with the tincture, like, have you guys heard experiences from individuals? I know that we mentioned that there's not a ton of CBD research out there, but just from like anecdotal evidence, is there anything that you guys have found that has worked?
Yeah, so the way we've designed and thought through Beam is that we have we call them our 4 categories of family. So we have performance, sleep, recovery, and balance. Balance is our category that talks about, is for stress, anxiety, things like that. The interesting thing is that when people are using Beam, we found that they've been wanting to use Beam for very specific pain points and reasons, which has led us to think, like, if we can really impact someone's health, what are the 4 main buckets we can focus on? Because part of the problem in the CBD space too is you're just seeing CBD and sports bras and hamburgers and dog treats, and those are actually things you see in CBD. And so we really want to take a focused, functional, purpose-driven approach of how do we create products that are going to help people be happy, healthy, whole. So again, if we can focus on performance, sleep, recovery, and balance, like that's the best way we think we can impact your health. And so within that, if that's shifting our product, so that the idea was that throughout the day, we kind of have a product for you. It's not so much, taking, the oil, for example, this has to be taken at a certain time or day, things like that. It's more, what are the pain points that you're experiencing? What are the categories that resonate with you in terms of what you might want to try? Meaning, we're launching this really cool capsule soon that's going to give you a really good energy. It launches in a couple. When will this air? Maybe we can just talk about it now.
In like a month.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, perfect. So we'll just
there we
talk
go.
about it as if it's launched. So our focus capsules launch. Our focus capsules that we're launching is CBD plus a bunch of really cool nootropics and adaptogens, and it gives you a really good energy and mental boost. And the idea is that can be taken anytime, mostly in the morning throughout the day, if you're working from home, if you're about to have a workout, things like that. Dream is obviously, you want to have that 20, 30 minutes before bed. We have our Revive capsules, which are in our recovery category, which pair CBD with a bunch of really cool antioxidants and anti-inflammatory components. So that's something a lot of people use sometimes at night, but they also mostly just use it post-workout. So it's this 360 model of integrating CBD into your lifestyle.
Yeah, I've always been curious. I have a Boxer Lab Red Nose Pit mix at home, and I every time I've given him like one of those CBD dog treats, I'm like, is this like because you're excited because like there's CBD in here and it works, or just because I'm giving you a treat? Like I'm never quite certain.
Well, they have an endocannabinoid system too, so it's giving them some. I drop a little bit of Beam in my dog's breakfast sometimes.
All right,
I think Kevin, you do that now with your new puppy, right?
My puppy, yeah, as well.
What kind of dog do you have?
Puppy, it's more like it's like a horse.
She's like her name's Babe. She's what is she? She's 6 months and she's already like almost 70 pounds. Yeah, Babe.
Yeah, my Boxer Lab Red Nose Pit Mix Bo, he's 90 pounds, so I understand what you're talking about. He's a big boy.
The vet thinks she's almost.
Wow.
No, I don't have a dog right now.
I think Jenny would say you're the dog, but
probably. I'm the only male in the house too, so I'm outnumbered by three women. So
so sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you guys because I was curious. I heard about this once, or actually twice, probably about a year to a year and a half ago, where somebody had mentioned that, and I believe I forgot what company it was, CBD. I was talking to one of the owners or co-founders, and somebody had mentioned mentioned something where CBD can have certain effects or more effects on depending what race you're from. Is that true or is that false?
I personally have never heard that.
Yeah.
I think it goes more back to genetic makeup, to the point we were talking about before. My intuition would say no, but I don't know, Matt, if you have a specific opinion.
I don't have, yeah, I don't. I've never heard that before either. So I wouldn't really have a comment on it. That would be.
It's a good question.
Guessing. Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, you researchers that are listening, make sure you guys get on this. We need to know.
Right? Yeah, I had to say it. I've been curious.
Send us the results.
So you guys said that you're launching a bunch of new products. You guys want to run down, maybe give a brief, you mentioned a bunch of them so far, but do you guys want to just give like a brief mention on like the different products that you have and maybe like one or two benefits that each one brings? You know, you guys can repeat the ones that you guys have already talked about so everyone can kind of get a clear picture on all the products that you guys offer.
Matt, you want to start?
Sure.
Do you take a few and I'll take two?
Yeah. I'll start with the basics. So we have a tincture, which we call the One, which is just standard CBD oil. It comes in different dosages, and that's just something to take under the tongue, or you can add it to smoothies or drinks, things like that. Probably most recommended is to take it orally. We have the Fixer, which is one of our original topicals. It has a beeswax base, so it's great. You have sore muscles, achy areas, tendonitis, arthritis. I think, and then we have another topical called Boost, which utilizes our nano-emulsified CBD, which we'll get into. But the two differences between our topicals are the Fixer has a beeswax base. It's a little bit more of a recovery salve. And then Boost is more meant to be on the go. You're about to work out, you're at your computer, you're using your hands. It's water-based, so it dries instantly and absorbs into your skin and doesn't leave any residue in your hand. So it's a great,
Super
more
cool.
like kind of you're in the middle of doing something. And then we touched on Focus, when this had come out, would have just launched, which is a capsule. So it pairs our CBD with a whole stack of other really cool ingredients to really help promote mental energy, a boost in focus, and then kind of let you take, I guess, Revive, Dream, and yeah.
Yep. Is that it? Yeah, and Clarity.
Clarity, yeah.
So I guess we'll start there. Clarity is a great addition to your morning routine. So put it in coffee, a smoothie, oatmeal, chia pudding, whatever it is. It's a blend of adaptogens, ashwagandha, rhodiola, lion's mane. Obviously give you that clarity in the morning. And then we have the Dream products, which are reishi, melatonin, magnesium, L-theanine. The nighttime one is a delicious, like cinnamon hot chocolate. Mix it with like a nut milk or water. It's a really great product.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds bomb.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah, it's
bomb.
really nice. It's it
I'll
also
put the whole bottle in there.
You guys got some really good stuff in there with all those adaptogens and everything for focus.
Yeah,
memory, so
and that was what that was what our thinking is too. You know, the CBD that's in there is obviously super high quality. We can talk to that if it's appropriate, but then stacking it to Matt's point a little while ago, other functional ingredients that promote the similar benefit. So yeah. And did I miss anything, Matt? Dream Revive is our antioxidant recovery capsule. Turmeric, black pepper, white willow bark, all sorts of a stack of ingredients for recovery and inflammation.
Damn, you guys
so the
really.
net of it all is just, if you come to Beam, you're, again, with CBD, people are looking for usually a pain point that they're trying to solve. We've taken a step further versus just offering a generic CBD capsule or oil too, by also offering a very functional blend of a bunch of stuff that'll really drive home that benefit that you're looking for.
So plain and simple, Beam has a solution to your problem.
Seriously, I
Yes.
mean, definitely dotted your I's and crossed your T's with this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing what you guys have been able to build in such a short amount of time. Honestly, it's getting into the supplement game. I've never tried to build out a supplement company, but I have a couple of friends who have, and it's a lot of work. It's not easy between finding a manufacturer that's not going to dilute or contaminate your your supplements, your products, and finding out these all these little different additives, which are, you know, very important to helping, you know, like you mentioned before, fill in the cracks of someone's life where they can, you know, really benefit from more than just a general CBD supplement, but from something that is going to enhance many avenues of their life, not just de-stress them. So I got to give it to you guys for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's really nice. And it's been a long couple of years. I think we have some we have the scars to prove it. I think on the outside it always looks like, you know, oftentimes it's perceived as like something really cool to do, to building this great brand and have an awesome team, but it's freaking painful and kind of lonely in a lot of ways too. So we pay for it, but there's nothing that I don't think either one of us would rather be doing. So it's super rewarding.
So I got to ask you guys, having spoken about the amazing quality and greatness of your guys' product and knowing about your product, you guys as a team, coming together, how do you guys maintain top level quality in your business and being partners? How does that look like? And what are some of the key components you guys drive every single day to make sure that that's a brand standard?
It's a great question. I love that question. You want to go first, Kevin?
Yeah, cause given I just wrote that, I just published on Medium about that specific topic. How Matt and I are, it's on our Instagram page if anyone wants to check it out.
Starting a business with your best friend.
Yeah, the line is basically the law is to starting a business with your best friend. It's a handful of rules.
Don't make me cry.
Well, there are a lot of friendships that are lost doing that. And a lot of businesses that are broken doing that too. So you have to like go into it, I would say, with just a really clear set of direction and values more than anything. You know, Matt and I, and you can probably tell this from this interview, are very different and look at things very differently. And I often say that we take a different road to get there, but we always kind of meet in the same place. We're just very direct with each other. I would say, I think like any human, we all have egos, but we have I think we do a good job of not always having to be the smartest person in the room, and listening to people and listening to one another and being direct and separating the two, and just having the ability. And I think it comes from sports, more athletic careers, but to be direct, but not offended. So to say, hey, this idea is really bad, or this would be bad for the business, but to listen and to take it in. And then we certainly have our arguments and we have it out with each other, you know, when we need to, in a respectful way, but that argument and that discussion can end, and then, you know, the flip switches and we're back to friends. And it's having the ability to do that, where I think a lot of people really, really, really struggle with that. And there's a lot of things with that, like I said, ego being one of them, and pride and all those things. So I think just trusting each other, having a shared set of values, and just never straying from them. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one other layer. So at the essence of that all is just how Kevin and I communicate with each other. He said it really well there. I think one minor facet of that communication too is, if something is ever bothering one of us, it's communicated to that other person, whether it's not thinking of something Kevin is doing is the right thing, something he said, an idea that we're trying to push forward. Because a lot of times if you don't tell that person what's on your mind, that fosters and that builds up, and then that can start to, it just creates like this like spinning death wheel of then you start thinking about stuff and it just becomes toxic. So I think within all the great communication we have too, that's the other thing. It's like, it literally just always will come out of the mouth, not needing to sound perfect, but just being able to know, like, I can tell him exactly what I'm feeling. He's not going to judge me. It's not going to hurt his ego. He's not going to attack me back. He'll just hear me out, and we can talk about it, and we'll end up in a good place after. I think it's just a huge communication thing. It really is a lot easier to explain and to say that, you just be direct, be honest with each other. It's not that easy.
It's not.
I think
it's really, really hard. We look for those skills with the team too. I'd say, like, we always laugh about this. Like, we have 14 full-time people now, and it's like, I don't know that I've ever looked at a single resume. We look for people that can communicate directly and openly and effectively and have grit and be able to have tough discussions and not be offended. And ultimately, like, for us, the stakes are just too freaking high. The business has grown so quickly. We have too many, there's just too much of our collective blood, sweat, and tears in the business to not have people, communicate the way that we need to get the company where it needs to be. So that's what we look for in each other and also with the people we hire.
I really love the fact that you brought all that up because
that's us in a nutshell.
Exactly us. And I think off the bat, you can tell we look different too. So off the bat, you could tell we're completely two different people. But we say it all the time. We might operate or we might carve our path different ways, but we always meet eventually down the middle, and we know where our goals are set and what we want to accomplish, and we have that open communication.
Yeah, he knows I can't hold my tongue.
No, he won't.
I can't hold my tongue. I can't do it. Yeah, I'll call him. No, you need to send this to me. Okay, I'll get. No, not now. Now. I'm the. Yeah, he's more
into the future.
He's the dreamer. I'm the one that's got to put together the 35 steps that we got to take to get there. But, I'm glad. Like Mendes said, I'm glad that you guys brought that up because so often we hear like, oh, you got to be around like-minded people if you want to succeed and all this stuff. Like him and I clearly couldn't be farther apart on a whole lot of things. But like you guys mentioned, the end goal is always the same, and the respect is there, right? Like, he fills in the cracks, just like your CBD does for people, right? Beam does for people who are having stress or having other issues, right? Like Mendes fills in a lot of the cracks that I can't fill, and I fill in a lot of the cracks that he can't fill. Organization, but it always works out for the better because there's that mutual respect between the two of us, as it clearly shows that you two have for each other, right? Where, at the end of the day, if I need him to get something done, I can rely on him 100% to get it done, and he can do the same for me, even without having to tell me. I think that that's so crucial for any partnership, no matter how big or small the business is. That foundation of respect and honesty, as you were also mentioning before, is so critical for the success of, a business, and like you were mentioning before, being friends, like continuing the friendship no matter what happens to the business.
Which is still very key, because that was how you guys started that connection, having that friendship in the first place. So you definitely don't want to lose that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about perspective too. There's more important things in life. Obviously, we want more than anything for this to be successful and to have the outcome we want, but there are more important things. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but there are.
Yeah, for sure. We're at 45 minutes right now. I think Mendes has a couple more questions for you, as he does for all of our guests. Before we wrap things up and before he gives you his final couple questions, he's going to fire them off. I know he will.
I'm scared.
Yeah, rapid fire. Why don't you guys let everyone know where they can find you guys on Instagram, where they can find Beam on social media, online, and all the great stuff that you guys are providing for people?
Sure. Personally, so I'm Matt Lombardi 24 on Instagram, and then Beam is just at Beam, BEAM on Instagram, and then beamtlc.com, like Tender Love Care. So beautiful. Just TLC, no THC is one of our slogans. So
that's awesome. That's epic.
Oh, and awesome. I'm Kevin Moran 34 on Instagram.
Perfect.
Awesome. So should I let it rip away?
Go for it, man.
All right.
Let it rip.
First question. When is CBD too much CBD throughout the day, if that even exists?
I haven't found a limit. The limit doesn't exist.
When you're
falling asleep.
No, if you take it in massive abundance, it could have a sedative effect. But I would say once you've reached your desired effect and what you're trying to solve with the products, I would say you've reached your limit. Other than that, your body metabolizes it and it just comes out in your waste, which obviously becomes pretty expensive waste over time.
Yes.
You can't overdose on it. It's not something where it's like, hey, you got to be really careful how much you're dosing. That's why, the dosages and stuff, it's kind of weird because, you don't really dosage other wellness supplements the way that you do with CBD sometimes. So it kind of adds almost like a stigma, like, is there too much I can take? Why do I need to worry about the dosages in here? But Kevin answered that pretty well.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to tell my girlfriend Jenny to slow it down, because man, she has a loose hand. She has a loose hand. No, I remember one time about a year and a half ago, we worked with this company and we were doing some, and I was like, babe, where's they send you CBD products? Where's mine? And she's like, oh, well, I need them more than you do. And I was like, whoa, hold up. I was like,
it always works out that way.
How is it that in 2 weeks you blew by 2 capsules that were enough to last a month each. I'm not even kidding. So I was like, damn. So I will let her know. I was like, babe,
I blame that on you. You're probably
That's
stressing her the
amazing.
fuck out, man. You gotta calm down.
I know, right? With my future thinking. Next question. What would you guys say was the biggest obstacle you faced in your business?
Oh man, how long do you have?
Yeah. There's been stuff from every step of the way. I think I just even to go back to the beginning, Kevin, just with it was nearly impossible just to get a simple checking account, to have a bank, and to have online processing, which is still really complicated. We're fortunate that we launched this when we did, because I wouldn't want to be launching a CBD business today. Just one, it's that much more competitive. It's that much harder to get these things. But we,
the
net of it was like, you don't have basic, like almost like human rights of starting a business with CBD at the time. Like you didn't have a right to go open up just a regular checking account at a bank. You couldn't have payment processing. So it's kind of like, well, how the heck am I supposed to operate this thing?
Cash in a brown
we were
paper
just very
bag.
persistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would also say like super macro stuff like that, all the way down to like not having any manufacturing experience. Like how do you make a label? How do you make the art for a label? What should the font be? Who makes it for you? You know, vetting out all these different manufacturers. And it was, I always say there's just a lot of really, really bad conversations until you've had a good one. And then, you know, fast forward, I'm raising a round of funding Obvious Ventures led a round of funding, which is a pretty top tier venture capital firm based out of San Francisco. That was obviously a challenging and exciting time for the business. And I'd say like over the last couple of years, like every 6 months brings its own unique set of challenges. Now that we have a team and people, you know, the challenges become different. But I would say equally as hard. You know, we have a pretty flat organization where everybody reports to Matt and I. You know, there's not a ton of structure. That's the way we want it and want it to continue in the future. But everybody beats to a different drum and has their own motivations. They're motivated by different things and need to be loved and pushed their own unique ways. And that's really, really hard and exhausting, but also like really great at the same time.
I don't know if that was a good answer, because it wasn't really pinpointing one specific thing. I just like overall, it's just really hard. The whole thing. It doesn't stop really.
That's the plus side and the downside of being a business owner. You got to be kind of the jack of all trades while also understanding when to delegate everything that you shouldn't be taking on at the time.
So I got 2 more for you guys, 2 quick ones.
We'll try to answer these for so long.
Nah, you're good.
What is the wildest story you've ever heard about somebody using CBD? Or how they used it?
The first thing that pops in my mind is last year at the CrossFit Games, and the fixer, which I was explaining earlier, which is a salve. It's topical. I mean, it's made from beeswax, essential oil, CBD, so it's not anything you could eat. It's just not meant to be eaten. But I just remember last year looking over, I forget if it was Alyssa or Johnny, but we look over and there's these little like wooden spoons that we put next to them, so you could, you know, scoop some out instead of putting your fingers in and rub it on your hand. And just looking over and seeing someone scoop it out and eat it, and then Alyssa or Johnny running over and excuse me, sir, like that's not supposed to be eaten.
Oh, rough.
How were those effects?
Yeah. Did he say it at least tasted good? Did it taste good?
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, babe, the capsules were for me and they told me you can eat this.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, you'll be the dog. You'll be sleeping outside.
I'll be the dog that we never had in the house sleeping outdoors. Last question. What is the biggest piece of advice that you guys can leave off today for our listeners and users?
Good question. You want to go first? You want me to get started?
You can kick it off.
I'd say that anything you want to do that's worth doing in life is oftentimes like really, 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 really hard and inflicts a lot of pain and difficult things. But like I said, when I initially said that anything worth doing does that. So, you know, if you want to do something, you need to embrace the obstacles. I think one of both Matt and I's favorite books is by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. Take what are inevitably going to be these massive challenges that come to you if you're starting a business, if you're an athlete, if you have a podcast, like they're going to come. They always do. Look at them, take them in through your own filter, and either get over them or turn them into positives, because no one's going to do it for you. So that would be my piece of advice. And that's not just with business, with anything in life. Anything that I've wanted to do, or oftentimes my biggest struggles in life have created the best things for me, I would say.
Love it.
We talk about these things all the time. I think just one thing that popped in my head listening to Kevin, there really is, it's hard to boil it down to one thing, but one thing that just came to mind too is I often think about when we first were starting, there are so many reasons not to do this, to Kevin's point of really just like we had to go through so many obstacles and looking at these things and you have to just be so passionate about what you're doing. But, I think like kind of baked into that is almost a micro learning is that, if you really want to, when you work hard enough, you can believe your excuses. For us, there's so many people telling us, oh, it's so sad. Even still today, we get it. It's so saturated, it's so hard. We didn't have a background in literally any of these things that we're doing today. And it would have been really easy just to buy into the excuses of it's saturated, it's hard. Well, I don't know, like I don't even know what a manufacturing partner is. I don't know how to make labels. Those are things that really become easy to paralyze yourself when you have an idea at the very early stages. And so I think one of the secret ingredients is, so I guess it's like a 1A, 1B, which is, be careful not to buy too much into your excuses and just start doing something. Whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, it'll often give you some type of feedback, whether it's working, it's not working. If it's working, you can kind of keep leaning into that, iterate it, lean into it a little bit more. And if it's not working, you can just try a completely different approach or strategy. And, I think what Kevin is saying and those two examples are just really how we got Beam going and growing so quickly. Was just massive action. And we just didn't buy into these ideas like, oh, well, you've never done this. You don't have experience in it. Why do you want to start a CBD company? Neither of you guys have ever been high before. And there's also like thousands and thousands of CBD companies in the already existing. What are you guys going to go do? I think just don't buy into excuses and just take massive action.
Amen. You guys heard it from these two amazing individuals themselves.
Yeah, thank you guys. Matt Lombardi, Kevin Moran, Beam CBD. You guys can find it on their website, Beam or beamtlc.com, right? That's what it is?
Correct.
All right, I'm not gonna. That's too good for me to forget. Beamtlc.com, guys. Make sure you guys check them out. Get some of their products. They're amazing. Thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Much love.
Until next time, guys.